What's going on, folks? Happy Monday to you. We are live at lunch, as you know, 12:10 every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We're going to go to about 12:45, 12:50. Give you plenty of time to finish your lunch, wash your hands, clock back in, and get back to it. Had a good weekend. First weekend without football. Dabbled into some other things. Obviously, you had the NBA game, the All-Star game, and I must say that the All-Star game, All-Star weekend in the NBA is very quickly becoming the Pro Bowl in the NFL. The guys aren't out there are not really putting forth any effort. They scored 397 points last night. It was like 211 to 180 something or something ridiculous. Like it was like it wasn't even a lot of people I heard social media and on some of the shows um said it wasn't even fun to watch. Um but hey, that's the same thing. That's the same thing that they said about the Pro Bowl. It kept going there, and then it just wasn't fun to watch anymore. But people tune in for the dunk contest and all that kind of stuff. That's still kind of fun. Then you had the controversy with the 3-point line and the stuff that Kenny said, and it's like, come on, man. Yeah, it was 211 to 186. Dame Lillard was the All Star, Eastern Conference All Star, MVP, and he won the 3-point contest, so he got the double double. But yeah, man, you know what? I turned it on a little bit for the celebrity game, a little bit for the 3-point contest. Actually, what got me the most interested was the floor in the 3-point shootout and the celebrity game. That LED floor that they put in with all of the graphics and stuff as they were playing, I thought that was really, really cool. The technology that they're coming out with now is just off the chain. The stuff that you can do to get people interactive. Me being a tech nerd and into that type of stuff, shoot, I was looking at transparent LED panels and stuff like that. I remember looking at that stuff like 10 years ago because I used to watch what they used to come out with at the at the electronic shows over in China. I would see what they did on YouTube and the LED lights that you can put in your hallway, wallpaper. I've been looking at that stuff for years, man. So just to see how far it's come, and when they put that stuff on the floor, on the court, I thought that was pretty awesome. So, but it was fun to watch. But I must admit, the game, I bet you I turned the game on for maybe 3 minutes. That was it. And then I cut it off, or I was doing something else, but I did not pay attention to it. So, when I saw that it was like 140 to 120 something, um, I was like, they're not really doing nothing. They just going down there and everybody shooting 3-pointers. So, but it's going the same way. It's going the same way. Um, but the one thing I did want to say is I thought that was interesting was, and we'll get to the running backs in a minute, was everybody in the celebrity game. And I'm seeing Micah Parsons was in there, Puka Nakua was dunking on people and all of that kind of stuff. And I thought that's very interesting that these guys won't play in the Pro Bowl. They don't go full tilt in the Pro Bowl. And then they throwing up dunks and spin moves on people at the NBA game. And the first thing I thought of was, I can't remember his name. Got to look it up. What was the dude? He was a receiver that got hurt in the off season. He was playing like playing football on the beach, just a day on the beach with friends and family, and he ended up tearing his knee. Um, see if I can find that out. But that's the first thing I thought of, and I was like, if one of those dudes come down on somebody's foot or come down funny on their knee and they twist something or sprain or tweak something, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a big problem. So I don't know if they, talk to Micah Parsons about that, or if anybody from the Cowboys said anything, or anybody from the Rams said anything to Puka Nakua. I don't know. But that's something that they have to think about, especially on the off season. So this one says this was Edwards, Robert Edwards, 1998 draft, rushed for 1,115 yards for the Patriots in 1998 before blowing his knee out at an NFL rookie flag football game in Hawaii during Pro Bowl week. Wow. So it was a running back, not a receiver. So I'm about to read some more into that, but it's interesting what they do. When you're in a situation like that, just having fun. But there's one thing about playing basketball. I stopped playing basketball in high school. I played basketball my freshman and sophomore year, then I stopped. And then I just stuck to football and baseball. But I remember every time I would meet up with friends or something to play basketball, I was one of them dudes. I wouldn't play. I would just be there just to watch, hang with the fellas and all that kind of stuff. Every time, one or two things would happen, or both. Somebody would come down on somebody's foot, turn an ankle, sprain a knee, something like that, sprain an ankle, or it ended up in a fight. So both of them are good. One of my best friends, Ron Carpenter, won a Super Bowl with the Rams. Greatest show on turf. He was part of that team with Dick Vermeil and all of them. But when we were in high school, going into our senior year, he was out playing basketball and badly messed up his ankle, I believe. So he missed half of our senior year because he was playing basketball. So like I used to see stuff like that all the time. We almost got in a fight with this bunch of dudes in the Bahamas on our senior trip. Just like crazy stuff. It's like basketball just brings out the worst in people. It's like everybody want to push you, everybody want to fight, everybody want to test you. So I tend to avoid that type of stuff. That, and for me being a football player, I would always find myself in situations where people wanted me to play flag football with them. Like a lot of people around here in the South Jersey area, and I'm sure in other places, they have a turkey bowl around Thanksgiving. Family and friends get together and they play flag football at a park or somewhere, like, or if somebody's got a big yard with farmland or something, they would always do that. And I've gotten invited to a couple of those, but I would always decline. Always decline, especially when you're talking about football. When you're talking about your sport, people talk, and inevitably, somebody always will find out that, hey, that dude used to play ball for real. That dude used to play for the Eagles. That dude used to play for the Knicks, or whatever the situation is. And you always get those guys that want to test you. Oh, he ain't nothing. He think just because he played for the Eagles, he gonna do this, do that, and they test you, and they tend to be uber aggressive, and somebody ends up getting hurt, or same thing, you end up getting into a fight because somebody don't want to back down, and there's no me in those situations. There's no way I can come out ahead. If I beat them or if I embarrass them, that's what I'm supposed to do because I used to play pro ball. If they beat me or embarrass me, I will never hit the end of it. It just keeps on going. So I shy away from stuff like that, man, all the time. But I see Rich Bridge on Facebook. What's going on, dude? But one of the things I did want to talk about is I'm seeing, if you guys saw the thumbnail, I'm seeing all of these rumors about the Eagles looking at new running backs. And I'm like, are we here again? Are we going through all of this again? So I'm like, first of all, let me say it first, so there's no misunderstanding. I am a fan of DeAndre Swift. I'm a fan of his. I want him to re-sign DeAndre Swift. I would really want him to keep or re-sign Kenny Gainwell, but I know they're not going to use him. Boston Scott might end up getting sacrificed in this situation. But when it comes to running back, and I got to go back and do a little homework on Kellen Moore because I want to see when he was with Dallas. I want to see how much they actually ran the ball. Because sometimes we think and we get stuff wrong. So I'm gonna do a little bit of homework, and I'm gonna try to figure out how much Dallas actually ran the ball with Kellen Moore. Did they have balanced attacks and stuff like that? I'm gonna put together a video about that. Oh, by the way, make sure y'all check out my video about Ryan Clark. That seems to be I'm getting some pretty good traction on that. So definitely check that out. But yeah, man, I want to see what Kellen Moore, what his history is with running backs. We know Zeke was the mainstay down there in Dallas when he was there. But I want to see like how many carries did Zeke have during the season. I got to get all of that information because that's going to give me some type of clue on what he's going to do here. I do not want to get rid of DeAndre Swift. Do not. I think that kid is a dynamo. I think he was underutilized, and he still got 1,000 yards. Same way with Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders was definitely underused. And when we got DeAndre Swift, what was the first thing everybody said? Now we got a running back that's a dual threat because he can catch the ball and all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, got everybody hyped up, and we never threw the ball to him. Never threw the ball to him. So we went through all that rigmarole, and we never did anything with the talent, in my opinion. He was a good off tackle runner. Tackle to outside was his best. He can run inside, but he's not going to run anybody over. He's going to make you miss. But if you are that style of running back, you got to run the ball. Because the best thing about running backs in that situation, especially if you're not a big back, you know what a big back's going to do. He's going to lower his shoulder and be physical with you. You know, put his shoulder in your chest and try to run you over. And the way DBs tackle these days, everybody's making a business decision. So those bigger backs kind of have the advantage. But when you're a shifty back and your team tends to run the ball inside, you got to set that up. You can set up your blocks and your cuts, because all you need is a minimal amount of space. All you need is about 6 to 10 inches, because that's all that can be the difference between somebody making an arm tackle and you breaking the tackle. And that's all the I've seen running backs. DeAndre Swift did it this year. I saw him a couple times this year shake a linebacker in the hole. They're coming up to make a tackle, and he makes that cut, just a slight move, turns his hips, and he slips right by him. But most of his big gains, most of them came from the outside, off tackle out. But because we run from the gun formation so much, they run that play where he takes the one step over and he tries to hit it in the guard tackle gap. And it's like, that's not always going to work, man. Anytime you got a running back like that and he got to step sideways, that's you're taking away from his effectiveness. And if you look at a lot of his big plays, were plays that he broke tackles and he made somebody miss and bounced outside. He had a couple good runs like that this year. But he really has some good runs going straight downhill off tackle. And it's like, how come we just don't do that? You can run play action off of that. You can do so many things off of that if you keep a running back deep. And for whatever reason, the Eagles were just scared to do that. So now I want to go back and look at what Kellen Moore, what his history shows. I'm not even going to go into what I think and what I want because it's irrelevant at this point. But I want to go back and look at what his history shows with Zeke, with Pollard. Was Pollard there when he was there? I think so. So, what's good, man? Bet on yourself media. What's good, dude? Did you fall asleep on that All-Star game too? But yeah, man, I want to see what Kellen Moore's history is with running backs, what his balance is, because that's going to determine what we're going to do. And I hate that we're talking about Saquon Barkley. I done already seen an article that said the Eagles are looking at acquiring Saquon Barkley, and I'm like, for what? if we got Saquon Barkley, are we going to use him? That's my only question. And I said this before, we wasted Rashad Penny. We wasted a year of that dude's career, and that's a damn shame. Because time is the one thing you don't get back. He's gotten a year older, and yes, he'll have fresh legs, but when you are running back, your age is going to hit harder than almost anything else. So, yeah, you didn't miss anything with that All-Star game. It was boring, and they are quickly finding out that the NBA All-Star game is turning into the NFL Pro Bowl. Same thing. Nobody's guarding. It's not a real game. Everybody's just firing up shots. They in the same boat that the NFL was about 2-3 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And it's funny, I saw an article today. Kobe Bryant called it. Said they had to change it up a little bit. So let's see what they're gonna do. But yeah, as far as the running backs go, man. If we gonna get Saquon in here, we better use him. If we gonna get Derrick Henry in here, we better use him. If we gonna get J.K. Dobbins in here, we better use him. But having said that, we got DeAndre Swift and we didn't use him correctly. And I do not understand why we don't want to commit to being a run first team. I don't understand it. It's almost like some of the owners and coaches have like hidden bets, like who can be the best team and pass for 8 bajillion yards. Because if you go back and you look at the NFL stats, everybody don't all these quarterbacks that throw for all of these yards and getting, considered elite level quarterbacks, you go look at them and how many of them have Super Bowl champions? How many of them have Super Bowl championships? You got Tom Brady, you got Patrick Mahomes, and who else? Aaron Rodgers. He's got one. So everybody wants they want these stereotypical quarterbacks like to be able to launch the ball everywhere. And I always use this example. You go back and look at, I'm going back, I'm dating myself a little bit, but I will tell anybody, you go look at Ryan Leaf, you go look at Dan Marino, go back and look at Jeff George. Go on YouTube and look up Jeff George and you see what type of arm that dude had. That dude, and I'm really trying to think, maybe Phillip Rivers. Jeff George had the strongest arm I'd ever seen. And I'm trying to think who's close to him, who had a cannon like he had. Maybe Anthony Richardson has got an arm like that. Maybe. But go back and look at Jeff George throw the ball. That dude had an absolute cannon, and he couldn't win jack. Indianapolis moved up, found a way to draft this kid because this was, I believe, not long after Baltimore. Before they were Baltimore Ravens, they were the Baltimore Colts. And then, that whole story, in the middle of the night, they packed up the facility and moved to Indianapolis. But shortly after that, they drafted Jeff George because Jeff George was from the area. He went to Illinois, so they wanted a hometown kid to try to, bring in attention and put butts in seats, and he did that. The only problem was he wasn't a good quarterback. He had a great arm. He had a crappy attitude. And when the pressure hit him, he ain't know how to act. He ain't know how to handle it. So, and I'm saying all that to say that dude's arm was phenomenal. Ryan Leaf had a cannon. But I think maybe Phillip Rivers may have had an arm as strong as Jeff George. Maybe. Dan Marino, maybe. But the one thing they all got in common, Dan Marino had the run rookie year where I believe he got to the Super Bowl and they lost. And then never got back. So all of these teams that Dante Culpepper had it, but Dante Culpepper wasn't as good as Wasn't nowhere near Jeff George. Jeff George was special. But that's a good. I mean, Culpepper had a rocket now, but they weren't great quarterbacks. And I'm not. Let me say. Let me rephrase that. They were all good quarterbacks, but they were not good enough to take their team to the Super Bowl, and that's what we're talking about. And for 2 years in a row, you done had two low tier quarterbacks that took their team to the promised land. Now they couldn't seal the deal, but to just be able to get there, because nobody, when we got Jalen Hurts, nobody, and I mean nobody, thought that Jalen Hurts would take the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Nobody did. I don't care how much you love Jalen Hurts. You didn't see that happening. Brock Purdy, nobody thought Brock Purdy was going to take the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, when they came back this year in camp, it was a real big deal between him and what's the backup that they got from Tennessee? What's his name? I can't think of it right now. But they were battling, and then they traded Trey. So they basically gave it to him. So what's up, Adrian Bird? I see you on Facebook watching. I appreciate you. So yeah, man, it's everybody still, and even look at all of the back and forth and the rhetoric and just the stories, the hot takes that created about Brock Purdy. Was he a game changer, game manager, all of that kind of stuff? And honestly, all of that talk only started a couple years ago. Because if you think about it, a game manager or players like Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, they used to put these terms on quarterbacks. When Cordell Stewart got in the league, they called him Slash because he was such an athlete. But it took him 3 years to get an opportunity. I believe it was 3 years before he had an opportunity to play quarterback. Cordell Stewart was nasty at Colorado. Nasty. He was fast. He had an arm. He could read a defense. He was a decent quarterback. And finally, Pittsburgh gave him a shot. And he had a pretty solid career at quarterback, at QB. So everybody wants the stereotype 6'4", cannon arm, all of that type of stuff. And even you look at somebody like Brady, they drafted Brady in the 6th round. Brady didn't do much at Michigan. Brady didn't do a big deal, but for whatever reason, when Brady got the Patriots, he got with those coaches, and he was on the right team at the right time with the right coaches, and everything clicked for him. Because I'll tell you right now, if Tom Brady would have been on another team, he would not have had that type of success. If Patrick Mahomes was on a different team, he would not have had, he would not be having this level of success. If Jalen Hurts was on another team, he would not have taken that team to the Super Bowl. I believe that, because for us, Jalen Hurts, he was in the right place at the right time with Shane Steichen. Everything had to line up. With Patrick Mahomes, he was in the right place with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and all of that, with the receivers and Tyreek Hill, and he was in the right place at the right time with the right people. You have to take that into consideration. Tom Brady the same way. He was with Belichick. He was with was it Shane McDaniels? Right place, right time. Bledsoe gets hurt. Bledsoe was balling. Bledsoe was absolutely balling. But when Tom Brady stepped in and what he did, Belichick made the hard decision to keep Brady in the game. And Bledsoe was already an established veteran quarterback. So props to Belichick for recognizing what he had and staying with him. Because most people don't do that. Most people don't do that. So we'll see what happens. I won't be surprised if I don't know what the Eagles are going to do as their backup quarterback, but it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with what's his name down in Dallas, the Dallas backup quarterback when Dak Prescott got hurt last year. That would not surprise me in the least bit if we end up getting rid of one of our backups and we sign that dude. Or try to. I don't even know if he's available, but if he is, it wouldn't surprise me if Kellen Moore, brought somebody in like that. Because now when you look at the situation, yeah, they did want Cordell to be a wide receiver. Yep. Same thing they told Lamar Jackson. So yeah, man, there's something to be said for these coaches looking for a certain type of thing, but you get a guy that does what you needed to do. And like I was saying about Brock Purdy, even with the success that Brock Purdy was having and what he had, they still didn't want him to start coming back. They did not want to see that. They did not want that. They wanted dang it, why am I forgetting this name? Hold on. QBs. Depth chart. Sam Darnold. Good grief. What's up, Robert? Our coaching staff out eating cheesesteaks. Yeah, they out eating cheesesteaks, and then they with the damn Genos. They ain't go to one of the local mom and pops places all down South Street. Shit, you should have went to Ishkabibbles or something. Yeah, I Robert, I said that too, man. Michael Clay, they re-signed his contract. They bringing him back. Michael Clay, nobody thought Michael Clay would be the best coach on our roster this year. I wanted him fired last year for that direct we were putting out as special teams. So for him to go from worst to first and everybody else on the Eagles go from first to worst, that was ridiculous. But special teams was the bright spot in this year. Britton Covey was actually a Pro Bowl level returner this year. And hopefully he can continue that. And let me be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing Britton Covey in the slot a couple times for some screen plays or something like that. Put him out there if you want to run the damn bubble screen. Please don't, but I'm not saying, I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Clay was the best coach last year. Michael Clay made in spite of all the injuries, made our special teams respectable. Because last year, you can say this, and I'm one of the people that'll say it. We lost the Super Bowl because of special teams. 2 plays killed us in the Super Bowl. When Jalen Hurts fumbled, and when we gave up that punt return and they got the ball like inside the 20 in the red zone. Those 2 plays killed us. The rest of that game, we crushed it. But 2 plays, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. 1 play here or there makes a difference in the world. You look at what happened to Detroit. You look at what happened to Baltimore. You look at what happened to San Francisco in the Super Bowl. San Francisco had so many opportunities to take that game away from Kansas City, and they could not do it. The best player, arguably the best player in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey, put the ball on the ground. When's the last time Christian McCaffrey fumbled that you can remember? Don't worry, I'll wait. It's been a while. I'm not sure how many times he's fumbled this year. Not many, less than 5. Shoot, he might only have like 3 fumbles on a year, maybe 2. I don't know. Let me see. Let me see. How many times did CMC fumble? in 2023. 3. Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball 3 times, and one of them was in the Super Bowl. They had every opportunity to win that game, and they could not. They just couldn't take advantage of it. They couldn't do it. So, props to KC for hanging around and battling around, because that game should have been like 24-17. That game should have been done. That game should have been done. And they blew it. San Francisco blew it. And it's funny, I did that video about the Philly karma of Deebo Samuels and the 49ers, and I got 49ers fans coming back at me talking about we just salty because they blasted us this year. And I'm like, I am not salty at all. When it came right down to it, when it was their turn, they came in our house and they busted our ass. That's what happens. That's the way it goes. But this was y'all turn, and you couldn't take advantage of it. So all of that smack you talked about how we weren't rivals and what you did with us and Bosa putting the blueprint out. Hey, when you win, you can talk your talk. I ain't got no problem with that, because we did it. And when we won and we went to the Super Bowl and everybody said we got lucky, this, that, I ain't trying to hear all of that. I ain't trying to hear it. It's not my fault that your coach don't have a good blocking scheme to block the leader in sacks at that time. Hassan Reddick, you want to put a fullback on him or a tight end on him that can't block him? And then you went and did the same thing this year. You did the same thing this year. And there was 2 opportunities for the 49ers to score, but they couldn't block Chris Jones, and then they couldn't block, I forget what the other guy, I think it was a defensive tackle. And both times you had men open that could possibly have scored or at least got you down to the goal line, but there was pressure on Brock Purdy and he couldn't complete the pass. That is scheme. So you know what? When y'all busted our ass in the link, you can talk your talk. But when you get busted the same way that we lost in the Super Bowl, yeah, we going to talk smack on you. And it ain't about being salty. Everybody gets a turn. Everybody gets a turn. And you know what? When you saw Deebo on the bench with his, how many memes did we see with Jalen Hurts walking out of the stadium with the Fetty behind him? How many memes did they make about that? And now you're going to see all these memes with Deebo with the towel over his head with tears in his eyes. I can't wait till all the memes pop up. Everybody gets a turn. So guess what? When we line it up next year, we're going to start talking smack again, and we're going to see each other on the gridiron, and we're going to see what's what. And then we'll start it all over again. But as far as this year goes, yeah, you busted us up at home, but when it came time for you to work in the biggest game of the year, you came up short. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. And did you hear what I didn't even see this until I saw the clip about this. Bart Scott was on whatever ESPN show he was on, and they showed that comment from DeMarcus Ware about the Cowboys saying that they were tired, and Bart Scott just literally said, like, these players are so soft. And I agree, because they don't practice, they don't hit. And then you got somebody for the Dallas Cowboys talking about they were tired. I couldn't believe it either. Couldn't believe it. So Myron Brown is watching on Facebook. What's up, frat? But yeah, man, it's crazy stuff these players soft, because they ain't got to do nothing. And that's why I got more respect now for like what Dan Campbell did and the message he was trying to bring out, trying to get these guys to buy into, like, hey, we're going to have a rough camp. We're going to hit, and, we're going to beat you up a little bit, but you got to do that. And he was right. And if it wasn't for them daggone, bad decisions, Detroit should have been in the damn Super Bowl. Detroit, in my opinion, would have beat I ain't gonna say that because Detroit's coaches made goofy decisions too. And then at the end of the day, they players couldn't keep it together. It all comes down to what you do in critical moments, your poise, and like that's one thing people talk about, but they don't give it enough credit. This is something that people say: the poise and being able to handle the pressure. That's what poise is. Acting like you've been there before and knowing what to do. And Shanahan, kicking the ball off in overtime, and stuff like that matters. Stuff like that matters. And let me say this on that same note, everybody thought the moment was going to be too big for Brock Purdy. It wasn't. Brock Purdy didn't light it up, but shit, neither did Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes made the play when he had to make the play. And defense still wins championships. Brock Purdy was trying to make the play, but if it wasn't for Kansas City's defense, that'd have been a 2-possession game in San Francisco's favor. Defense wins championships. The MVP of the Super Bowl was Spagnuolo. Don't get it twisted. Spags put it on San Francisco in that second half. Put it on them. And they didn't have no answer. And that's the way it go. That's the way it go, man. So, all right, I'm about to get up out of here, man. It's about 12:50. So, you know how we do. Give you a little bit of time. Give you time to go wash your hands, get yourself together, get clock back in to work. We're going to go for about 40 minutes at lunch, just to have a good time. But, yeah, man, I don't know what they're going to do with these running backs. Who knows? I think I'm gonna do some homework, put together a mock draft pretty soon, and we'll be getting that information out. And man, a lot of sports. I am really into the women's college basketball. Been watching Caitlin Clark, been watching UCLA, been watching USC with Juju Watkins, South Carolina with Dawn Staley, what she's doing down there. I think Dawn Staley's going to win another national championship. I don't think Iowa's got enough to. They got Caitlin Clark and who else? If they shut Caitlin Clark down, they're gonna struggle. And Hulky is she's good, but somebody got to feed her. She ain't gonna create her own shots. So if they can shut down Caitlin Clark, it'll be interesting to see how Iowa battles that. But you got other teams that are going to be good. So the women's March Madness is going to be fun to watch. Started watching NASCAR again. I watched the truck race. That was fun. Getting back into that again. I haven't watched NASCAR in a couple years. Ever since my driver Dale Jarrett hung it up, I ain't really watched it that much. But I did watch the truck race. That was fun. Daytona. Matter of fact, I got to look to see if Daytona's on now because they postponed it because it rained down there yesterday. What else? You got the UFL coming up. I will definitely be paying attention to the UFL. I'm trying to hook up with somebody from Brazil because I want to start watching the Sao Paulo Football Club and kind of building that relationship before the Eagles go to Brazil. So that should be fun. So it's a lot of stuff going on, man. So, but I'm going to get out of here, man. Enjoy the rest of your lunch. And I will see you. Don't forget, live at lunch, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All right? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12:10 to about 12:50. All right? So y'all enjoy your week, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Go Birds.